My name is Sabina, and I am the mother of Natasha Allen.
You as a mom have probably a wealth of knowledge of what it's like to go through this experience from the outside. Because people talk about what it's like to go through cancer as a patient, but like moms and dads and siblings and stuff, they're there as well. And I think they need, to hear about that.
I went through the cancer journey with her. I was her sole caregiver, her best friend, and her champion. And Natasha experienced synovial sarcoma, which is a rare aggressive form of a tissue cancer, for about 5 years. And we first found out about it when we lived in California. And our experience was very different, I think, than most people with sort of other cancers because it was very rare. So when we first found out about it, we had never heard about it. So we went to several specialists in California, people that actually specializes in rare cancers. Some of them had heard about it. We went to at least 7 different doctors, and some of them had heard about it, and they said that they were in touch with Sloan in New York, but none of them had practiced it, meaning they hadn't had a sarcoma patient in their care, which was really important to us. So we obviously were kind of in a standstill, very worried because we were reading about it online like anyone does. And I know you're not supposed to, but here we are faced with a challenge of a cancer we never heard about. And we're talking to specialists, doctors in the cancer world who've never really dealt with it either. So I turned to my network and spoke to someone who works in my field dealing with medical care. And I asked what clinical trials are out there in terms of sarcoma or synovial sarcoma. Please find me all of them or any of them. And I sat up basically all day, all night, and went through those clinical trials. And in those clinical trials, the doctors are mentioned and also their treatments. So I found one doctor who was treated, who was a doctor in at UCLA Health, and I asked, my colleague, and I said, please, I need to find this doctor. I need him to treat my daughter. Please, can you find him for me? And he said, I think you do a very good job at tracking down people yourself. So I said, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and try and find this doctor. So I tracked down his email, and what I didn't know at the time was that UCLA had changed their system into portals. So I didn't even know that they used emails anymore. So he responded right away when he saw my message. He said, I don't know who you are and how you found my email, but you can come in on my lunch hour because I'm fully booked. The reason why I wanted this doctor to treat my daughter was because he had treated 2 patients with synovial sarcoma and he had treated them successfully. So for me, that was hope. So I emailed him. He said, come in on my lunch hour. He's like, he's not seeing new patients and he is fully, booked. But we said that, yes, I emailed him and my email said, this is life and death. I need to see you. And it's for my daughter. So he saw us. He decided after meeting with us during his lunch hour, which I'm so grateful to, and we were so grateful to him, he decided to treat Natasha. And this was during COVID. So
Wow. I feel like that can certainly change the scenario. How long did it take between Natasha just getting symptoms and noticing really something's wrong to actually finding this doctor during his lunch break?
well, initially, when she did get the symptoms, we thought it was an athlete injury. Natasha was a basketball player, she was an athlete, and she has had problems with her knees before. Her tumor was behind her knee. So initially, when she actually got her tumor, she kept going to her doctor who kept dismissing her pain. This is another doctor. And he kept dismissing her pain, and she kept saying that she was in pain, and she just said to him that it felt differently. She advocated for herself. She kept pushing him, saying that she needed, to do a biopsy. And I think he dismissed her for several months, like at least 6 months. And truly, I feel like if he had maybe listened to her, maybe we wouldn't be here right now, to be honest, because the more I learn about sarcomas, the more I know that the sooner you tackle this cancer, the better the results are, right? You need to tackle it in like head on.
You know, I'm not an athlete, so I'm just speaking from what it seems like. You would seem to have to know your body very well in order to perform, especially basketball. So if she's saying, I have pain, something's really wrong about this, and you have a doctor that is consistently saying, no, just no, like just if you're saying, please just do a biopsy. Why do you think she kept getting dismissed? Do you have any like thoughts about that?
My thoughts is just that he, was not a good doctor, obviously. I think that if he cared, he would have, done what she had asked him to from the beginning, but she kept pushing. They did a surgery and he said he poked this just a cyst and he poked it or something like that. And she said, "Did you do a biopsy? I need you to do a biopsy." And so she had to do another procedure and then they did the biopsy. Of course, we did the biopsy and then that's when she found out. And she's been very open about how she reacted and how this doctor told her the news. But he clearly could have done a lot better.
Yeah.
I mean, here we are, but I do think that something that she did, which was really amazing, was she advocated for herself. She kept pushing for what she needed, a biopsy. And I think that's why she became such a relentless advocate in healthcare and for the cancer that she experienced, right? Because she knew now what to ask for. She researched every treatment. She knew how to speak up for herself because she didn't want that to happen to her again.
And she posted a lot on Instagram, and because you've sent me some and I've seen some of her videos. She has a very different perspective of uh she dealt with it a little bit differently than some other people. She had like this light about her, and she had some videos where I was like laughing because she was just so I don't even know the words for it. I mean, she was like, "Hey, I'm here, I'm doing it, let's go." That's kind of the attitude I was getting from it.
Yeah, she decided because she had that experience where she wasn't diagnosed right away, she was misdiagnosed, of course. She decided to share her journey. And I think that was super brave of her because I am not a public person at all in terms of being online, talking about my personal life. I'm actually very, very private in my personal life. I think I'm speaking up now because of her, and I know that she would want that because she was the kind of person who wanted to help other people. And she said, if I could help one other soul by sharing my journey, that's all she wanted. And she helped thousands, she helped millions. I mean, I've heard from thousands of people, and I haven't even been able to reach back to everyone. I'm trying to respond to her messages as much as I can. But not only did she help people with her videos that you're telling me about, she personally helped people, and she was personally sharing her medical journey with other patients and other patients' families. I mean, I've heard from people who said that she helped them with their brother who had cancer, their mother, their father, or themselves. I've heard from actual cancer patients themselves who have said that she helped them. She actually took the time to speak to them and did Zooms or whatnot. She's also helped other people that didn't have cancer. They were dealing with other rare
And when you mean help,
diagnoses.
did they, like,
Which
message her and she'd respond kind of thing? Was this purely through video? Was it a mix of both?
mix of both. I don't know. I mean, I know it was on TikTok. I know it was on Instagram. I'm speaking to someone right now that's very private who said that she's not a public person at all. She's very private, and she said that Natasha was the one person that she shared her journey with, and she has a rare diagnosis, and she doesn't even want to tell me about the diagnosis, but she did reach out to me saying how Natasha changed her life. And I've heard that from so many people, and to be honest, that has helped my journey, especially in my grief, to keep going every day. Are actually those messages. I got a message from someone in the UK, for example. She left me this voicemail, and she didn't even know Natasha, but said how her videos inspired her. So Natasha's video alone has inspired and made such a big impact in the world. And I'm saying world because it's not just in this country, because I've heard from people from Africa, the UK, Canada, all over the country, but I've heard from places like Italy, Spain, Paris, Iran, India. I heard from someone from India a
I
few
think
weeks
it's
ago, which is
that's
incredible.
incredible because, like, I do now, sarcoma is so rare that, I have heard before that it does bring a lot of people together from around the world. But, you're talking about it very, broadly. And I can see why, is because she had a very different take on all of this. Versus some of the people who go through treatment. And everybody's different. But what I found really interesting, she's got so many videos, but one that I thought was interesting was she has Britney Spears toxic in the background as she's receiving chemo and she's dancing to it. And I just thought, wow, I what that does to people who are going through treatment, it's like, okay, we can at least talk about this. Like, we know it's not okay, but can we just pretend like it's, there's some light here a little bit?
She was the light, right? I mean, she really was the light. And that's actually one of my favorite videos because she found Natasha found joy in every little thing. She was so good at it. She would remind you that feeling the sun on your skin, it's a blessing, that it's a privilege to be alive. And knowing that at such a young age, like her, she changed me. When she was born, she changed me. But she changed the way I think of life during her cancer journey. I wanted to be her biggest champion during that time. It was very difficult for me as well, you know, but seeing her being so strong and incredible and how she pushed forward, but also how she was so funny. She's really, really funny. She was the comedienne of, cancer. She turned her pain into purpose on a big stage. And she made it her own stage, right? She made this world of light. She inspired me so much when I got this, big job. And this was before cancer. She always pushed me. She always told me to keep going. She always told me to be the best, the brightest. She loved me so much. I was so lucky to have someone like her, a daughter who gave me so much light. And when I say to people that she was such a gift in my life, it's an understatement, truly, because you hear from other people and what they did, what she did for them, which is really incredible. Just being around her, when she was younger, we had a hard time, but she made everything positive. We would sit home on the weekends. I was working from home on the weekends, and she would do her, schoolwork, her homework, and she just would make us laugh so much. We laughed so much. And we laughed so much even during the toughest times of her going through cancer. It was me, her, and my son Tristan. It was us against the world. And she would, at the hospital, me and my son would be there, and she would go through treatment, and they would do hangman on the board, whereas like the doctors like writing all these important things, and then they're painting on there. And she just found joy in every moment. And I don't know a single day she didn't smile, regardless of the pain that she went through, you know? And
And there's a lot of people who have like a light to them. There's a lot of people who are funny. There's a lot of people who can be charismatic stuff, but she seems very different. And I'm just wondering, was there like a moment ever where you're like, she's she's different because she just like brings almost an otherworldly like kind of energy to people's lives.
I always knew she was special and unique. This is obviously pre-cancer, but in college, even in high school, she was always the best at every subject. She always had straight A's, A plus. She was always in advanced classes, and in every class she excelled. She was also this language connoisseur, so to speak. And she did these like language, contests, won all of them. There's nothing she wasn't great at. She was an incredible artist.
Oh,
She could draw and also with like oil paint the most beautiful pictures. And she could also draw in sketches, with a regular pencil. She was an incredible artist, which is very interesting because she was really good at math. That was like one of her strongest subjects. So she had like both brains. Um, so did I know or think she was special? Or there was a moment. I think I always knew that she was a very unique kid, you know? She never, I think we had like one argument during her teen years, which is so rare, you
teenagers.
know?
Yeah.
And it wasn't even a real one. It was just like when I look back at it, I think about this. Like every parent would love a kid like this. She was so easy, and I had her when I was really young. And some people thought I was too young to have a child at that age. I was just a teenager. But I was so proud. I was so proud to have her. And I also thought, wow, is it like this to have a kid? I was walking around with her. All she did was eat, sleep, and sleep. That's all she did. She was an incredible kid to raise, to be honest. And I can talk about her forever because she was the funniest person. She always made every single person in any room we were in to feel special,
Yeah.
regardless of who you were. And she would also seek out the people she knew may have been introverts.
Oh.
We have heard all these stories from her friends saying that. She was that person everywhere she went. And she thought of herself as an introvert person, which I can't believe because if you see her videos, she's so social and she is so happy and she is so bright, right? Her light was shining so bright in every stage of her life. Pre-cancer, during cancer, she was always the light in every room, which is very special.
Yeah.
I truly feel that she was a gift in our lives, me and my family. She always brought us all together. you know, regardless of any family fight, you have a big family. But she was the connecting person, you know, she was the connecting dot in between all of us.
So she
For
posted, a lot on Instagram and these very like funny videos of her going through treatment, getting out of treatment, daily life. She was really on there quite a lot. Um, if you're okay sharing, like when she like wasn't on social media, was she dealing with treatment the same way? Was that just like her honest true self, or like were there, moments that were particularly very hard for her that would be good for other people to feel like they can relate to?
I think just when she had the symptoms, of course, you know, cancer is really tough. It's very painful. And I think what could help people is knowing that, you know, regardless of her positive energy, she was in a lot of pain. And I think as caregivers or family or friends, knowing that even someone who puts on a brave face and smiles every day, they're still in tremendous pain. And I think knowing that as a friend or a family member, or if you're the caregiver, to know to try and facilitate the needs of the cancer patient. It's really important.
Yeah.
And to be a good listener, to hear them out. You know, sometimes she would try very hard, and I would tell her, it's okay, let's take a moment. Let's just sit down. It's okay. Most of the times, though, I will tell you, we did all these trips and she was the one who kept going and she was the one who was pushing us and we were saying, aren't you tired, we should sit down. She's like, no, no, I don't have time, I need to go, I need to go, we need to do this, we need to do that. She just kept going. She was relentless. Her strength, admirable. She was incredible, really, truly.
No, I was just gonna say she went through treatment for quite a long time, and I remember you telling me that there was a bit of hope because she kept going, and then all of a sudden, just one day, it just wasn't working anymore. What can you talk about that experience?
Well, this was at near the end. Of course, it happened very quickly, and I think learning about sarcomas and synovial sarcoma and also speaking to other people that are experiencing it, parents, caregivers, when it happens sort of in that manner, it happens very fast. And it did happen very quickly, you know, in the end. And you don't prepare yourself for that. Maybe you will never prepare yourself for that. I'm not sure. I'm still, to be honest, I'm still dealing with it. So it happened very quickly. I've spoken to other caregivers who said that it happened so quickly that they didn't feel like they could react to it. And I think knowing that also should help, I guess, I don't know, give the support to families that are dealing with synovial sarcoma or sarcomas in general to maybe help prepare when you first get your diagnosis. Things that you don't want to deal with,
And what would those
like
things be?
the end of
Yeah.
life, those things like end of life planning, knowing to put all your affairs in order, things that we don't really want to talk about, right? Because we think that it's going to remind us of death and the end. But really, these are things that we should talk about when we're healthy, when we are doing well and we are in our full clarity in life. And that's a hard thing because mortality is hard to talk about, just like grief is. And I think
Especially with people so young too, because sarcoma hits a lot of young people.
exactly. And I think those were the things that I wish that I had someone that could have told me to prepare better, to be honest.
Oh, so you didn't have like, did you feel like you had a, I mean, with family aside, because you can get support from your family, but I mean, there's a lot of logistics that have to go on there that, you're grieving at the same time and you're having to figure out logistics, and it's like how do you even do both, especially when you lose a child?
I didn't expect her to go. I did not expect her to pass. We were fighting and we had gone through trial and tribulations before. She always pulled through. I truly did not expect her to leave. I didn't. Because we've been through this before. In 2023, she went through a clinical trial that didn't work and she almost died from sepsis in the hospital room. It was the most terrifying experience that I had. And she came back from that and she was so positive, clearly because she just probably not, didn't remember most of the thing that happened at that moment, but I did. And I saw her come back from that and how strong she was. That, to be honest, I really didn't think we were going to lose her this time. I really still, I thought that she was going to pull through. She was going to be what she said, one of the 15% that were going to make it through. She was going to be, the example that we all talk about. She was going to be that person.
If you don't want to talk about this, it's totally fine, but I am curious, especially for, parents and other people who are going through this. What was it like that day or that moment? Like, how did it actually happen that you found out that this is just not working? Like, what happened in that moment that was different from, all the other times that she had actually pulled through?
We found out that the tumors had spread, and we were told that. And we did a procedure that we were hoping was going to save her life. And the procedure didn't help.
Mm.
And I think that we thought, even if it didn't work, that she was going to come out of that procedure and still heal because she is Natasha, you know? But that's what
I
happened.
see. And then, like, as a
Yeah.
mom, in that moment, throughout the entire process and stuff, like, just talking about you for a second, I mean, I can assume how you felt, but like, do you have more words to describe that or how you attempted to handle all of this?
I think because she asked me to fight, I kept fighting until the end. She actually looked at me and she said, "I want to live and I need you to fight with me until the very end." So to be honest, I didn't give up. Not even in that moment. I decided to fight with her until the very end. I looked at her and I said, "Whatever you need, I'm here for you, always and forever." She said she wants to prove everyone wrong. She's gonna fight this. And I said, "Okay, we'll fight." So to be honest, we fought. And we did until the very end.
And you,
Until the very end, she ate food. I fed her. I was with her. And part of me felt like she was gonna just, I don't know, come back from it. And part of me, all of me, prayed that she would. I didn't give up in my mind, in my soul, in my heart. I kept fighting with her because that's what she wanted. That's what I wanted. Because truly, imagine, I could not imagine a life without her. It wasn't in the books. So you can decide to give up or you can keep fighting. We kept fighting. And I'm proud of that. I'm really proud of that. I'm proud of her.
And you still are, because
I'm so
you're
proud of
kind
her.
of living on her even her account and everything she was doing, and you know, it speaks volumes that before you're saying I'm a very private person, and she was, you know, different, and you're saying, all
Yes, I
right,
am a private
you
person.
know,
I'm only
I'll
doing this
take
for
on
her.
her light. Is that kind of how you saw it?
Yes, actually, I can share with you that grief has been hard. And no one says, or no one tells you that grief can be harder in the fifth month or the sixth month or the seventh month. It can be harder the longer you go on. And during her 6 months is when I heard from you, Daphne. Also, I heard from some other organizations that Natasha has worked with. And I honestly thought that was her giving me a message. I thought that was Natasha giving me a message, telling me, Mom, don't give up. I need you to keep going. She actually left me this note that I found on her birthday last year. And when that happened, I heard from you, I heard from several cancer organizations. I thought, wait, she's speaking to me right now. I really truly think she's telling me something. And I had already found this note, which I randomly found in her book. She would have all these books, and she wrote like 1 page or 2 pages, and then she would like write in another notebook somewhere. But during my hardest moments, I always hear from her somehow. If it's through a note that she left me for her birthday, on her birthday, or if it's hearing from you, or if it was hearing from another organization that wants me to work with them, you know, remembering Natasha's legacy, remembering her. And she left me this note, which I do want to read to you, which is very special. So she said, so she left me this note on her birthday last year. Obviously, she wrote it before. I just happened to find it that day. I'm sorry, not for what I have done, but for the inevitable. I wish the weight of mortality didn't have to burden you. No mother should lose a child. And for me, and for that, I'm sorry. This disease may take me out, but I hope it doesn't dim your light. You are the reason I got the years I did. Instead of focusing on what took me, think of what kept me going and what time I did have, the moments we shared, the laughs, the cries, the big moments and small. And we all have a limited time on earth, and I'm blessed that I spent mine with you.
Wow.
I'm very lucky I have this note.
Wow. I something I didn't tell you before, because I didn't know the right moment, and now seems the right time, is there's two things that are a little coincidental. The first one isn't that big, but N Natasha and I are the same age, number one. Number two, I decided to do this awareness campaign in the form of a podcast last year, and the day I got like the approval to do it, we finally agreed, because I was looking on Instagram. I was like, I gotta find people, and I found Natasha. The day I got it was August 22nd, and I was gonna go reach out to her, and that's when I saw the post on her Instagram that she had passed, and I was like, oh man. So I didn't message, obviously. And then I was like, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait a little bit. And then I saw someone kept posting, and I was like, I bet that's a family member. So that's when I sent the message, and I was like, I thought it was like a sister or something. But anyways, it was weird that day that Sark was like, we'll do this. So that's just wow. And I'm really happy that she wrote that note, because I can imagine maybe not everybody gets something like that, but you almost have like a communication from her from like the ether or something.
Yeah, it's very special. And I think in my hardest moments, she's always there. She's always reminding me that her legacy, Natasha's legacy, would live forever, no matter what. And the good deed that she's done for other people will always be there. And her light is shining so bright, no one or nothing can dim it. No one.
And with like, this light that she really had in the hospital, and I'm going through all of these treatments and stuff, I'm kind of wondering, you know, it, did she have some favorite things she liked to do there? Because I feel like she kind of like she kind of joked around with like the nurses or something. Did she ever like, are there any anecdotes that you know about?
I just know that she loved her
Ah,
TikTok, like her TikTok videos and the music and doing all kinds of videos. She loved it. She loved to inform. She loved her TikTok community. That was her number one, to be honest. All of it. And I think she loved how much she was loved by that community and also how she connected with other people that had cancer.
does she have like any favorite foods or like activities that she okay, TikTok, I got she liked TikTok. Did she have any favorite little treats that would, kind of brighten her day?
Well, yes. Ross, which is like a plant-based Ethiopian place in Brooklyn, was one of her favorite places.
Oh.
So we would order from them every time we had a treatment that, we would order home. And they're incredible. Their owners were very supportive during Natasha's cancer treatments. One of our favorite places. This Ross is RAS. And and I'm sure it's okay for me to share this, but one of the owners also had experienced cancer. His father had cancer. So we shared obviously our journey with them, and they were incredible to us and how they supported us through this. But that was her number one favorite foods, which is obviously Habesha food, so we say.
Was there like a go-to?
I love the veggie stuff,
Okay.
so I always do the veggie orders, but she loved steak
Ooh.
or meat stuff. So we would, order the meat, but she also loved like the chemo took a lot of strength out of her. And at some point she lost
Mhm.
some weight. So the doctor said, if you can eat meat, that would be great. So sometimes I would like try and Google what great steak place would deliver, or I would actually go into Manhattan, and order like really fancy steak for her,
I love that.
and then come back.
So do you have any advice for moms for, it's one thing for their child to go through cancer, but specifically sarcoma, because it can be a very lonely cancer considering that it's rare and the support is it's different. You have to find different avenues for support. So do you have anything that moms can really, utilize, anything you'd want to share with them?
I just think obviously from the start, if you do end up being diagnosed with a sarcoma, right away start the treatment. If you are not in the same city as a doctor that specializes in sarcomas, you need to move. That is super important. And us moving east, we did because Natasha wanted to pursue her dreams, to be honest, and she was in remission at that time. And I took a job on the East Coast with my job for her, because I was contemplating, should I do this? I'm leaving the dream job of my life or working for the best show ever. And she said, you're not taking this job because it's a promotion, because it was not. She said, you're taking it because you love me and you want to be near me. And she said, I want to live and die in New York. So you're coming east with me. So I took the job because of her. So we knew also like we had to do the checkups at that time. But in our mind, we obviously wanted to believe that she was in remission, everything was going to be okay, she's going to live her dream. But going back to the advice for caregivers and parents or family members dealing with family members who have synovial sarcoma, sarcomas, or rare cancer, you need to be where those specialty doctors are because you're going to need treatment. You need to tackle it head on. That's number one. As soon as you find out that you're diagnosed, you need to figure out treatment right away. Don't wait. I've learned that from Natasha's journey. The other thing is about being a caregiver. What you learn is does take a lot from yourself, right? It's gonna take a lot from your life, and you have to kind of refocus. But knowing that the needs of your person, in this case Natasha, those come first. So whatever she wanted, I try to facilitate that. I was there to facilitate her needs. She wanted to be independent. She wanted to have her own life. She wanted to do her things her way. And I need to respect that because she was very strong and she was until the very end. You would never think, or even when you watch the videos, could you tell she had cancer? You would never think that she was sick. He was an incredible human being. So we started this bucket list journey with Natasha. We traveled all over the world with her, and we did that. And I think doing that as a family or friends, the activities that she did trivia every Wednesday. She was always competing with trivia, other trivia teams in Brooklyn. That was a big thing for her. So her activities, she had a book club with her friends. She had a core group of friends that she was very close with. I still speak to many of them. They were very much there for her during our journey, and especially in the end. I leaned on them a lot. They were incredible people. But doing what your loved one wants is very important, but also to be a good listener. Sometimes, even as a friend, if it's not a family member, someone is having cancer and you don't know what to say, it's okay. You don't need to. Sometimes it's okay just to sit with them. There were so many times I would just be with Natasha and we would watch Scandal over and over again. I mean, she's watched that like 10 times. And you just sit there and be there with your loved one. In the last few weeks with her, I would read her notes from her friends. And it gave me a lot of joy to be with her and share that with her. She loved hearing them, listening to those notes. I would get some messages for her too, on social media and text messages. I would mention it to her. And she loved hearing them. But Natasha was special. And she knew exactly what she wanted from the beginning to the end. She was running the show. Trust me. And she was the kind of person who would tell me, this is what I need you to do, and this is how I need you to do it. Even when I thought she needed my support sometimes in doctor's appointments, I would kind of step in and try to speak. She looked at me and she said, Mom, I got this. I need to answer this. So I just always took a backseat to her and I would be listening to her. She was an incredible human. And I'm speaking to you honestly because of her message to the world about spreading the awareness for synovial sarcoma and how rare this disease is, but also how little funding it gets compared to other cancers because people are not aware of it. And I'm here because I want to help other patients and other families, and I want to share my knowledge that I have experienced with Natasha, with those patients, with those families, and their loved ones, so they can do better and be better. I just think that we were incredibly lucky to be at a place like this hospital, to be honest. And I have nothing else but gratitude to them. They were, and I think always will be, there for me also.
Mm.
And Natasha really felt supported by them. And I think that is really important. She was supported by her doctors, and they're very good. And I think they're constantly learning about this cancer too. And Natasha was willing to take and do any clinical trial and any medication, any chemo, any radiation. She was willing to take the risks in order to survive, but also to help others. I mean, that was her message, right? She wanted to try every little thing out so she could survive, but also she wanted to survive so she could help other people. That's who she was.
And she did, she
Other
still
people.
is. It's really phenomenal, like the kind of platform she's made. It really is. Well, thank
Yeah.
you. I really appreciate you talking about her experience and your experience. I know I can only imagine it feels like you're almost like a little reliving it as you're telling it. So I can understand, that's a lot of grief, but I really do appreciate you sharing it, because like you said, we have to create more awareness about this because just because it's rare doesn't mean we shouldn't care, right? So, um, yeah, so thank you for continuing Natasha's journey. I think myself and like people around the world really appreciate it.
Yeah, and just before you go, I just wanted to say about Natasha. She continues to inspire me to live in the light, and her legacy will always live on because her videos live forever. And she has taught me to turn my pain into purpose, but I continue living in her light. She was such a bright light, and I feel so lucky to have known her, but even more lucky to not just be her best friend, but also her mother. And I hope to continue her journey and her legacy by helping other people.
You've been doing a phenomenal job. I always see on Instagram is always because I'm only on Instagram, not on TikTok. I always see you keep reposting, reposting, reposting. And I think that's really great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I hope to always share her story.